Hello everybody and welcome to this tutorial in which I show you the process you could use to bring a concept model which we created in Fusion 360, add some more materials to it, clean up the file, remove everything we need, and then because we have objects and faces textured, we can easily export it as OBJ and then import it into Blender. Because materials were associated already in Fusion, we can simply select actually the individual bodies and modify and perfect the materials. And then we will add lights, be creative, and create some nice renderings like this one. Okay, that's easy peasy. Let's do it. Before we continue, what we want to do is go to File, Save As, and make a copy. I called this one rendering. Because then here I can select all these groups, which I have here as kind of like the backup files. I do not want those to be exported. So I clean this up. Very good. Now step 2 is assigning materials already in Fusion. The advantage of adding materials here is when we bring this over to Blender, there are already materials assigned to certain faces, geometry parts. So all we need to do is update the materials and develop the render environment. So let's do this. I'm going to press A. And then what type of material here we use, honestly, doesn't even really matter. Yeah, I just will use this red plastic and drag this onto everything I know that will be kind of like this plastic. Okay, very nice. Then I will go to leather. I have a fabric here. This fabric I will apply just to that face. So you see now I have the red plastic and then there a red face. Very nice. And I also have here leather. So the leather I will also apply to these faces here. And then I can switch to full body and then apply this to these cushioning parts. Very good. So this is basically all I need to do. Now if I export everything out, right click, save as mesh, OBJ, high quality, meters, very good. Okay, and I'm going to export this to the desktop. When this is done now, I can load that OBJ into Blender and all the materials are already present. Okay, so let's go to Blender. There we are. First thing, we want to make sure we are in meters. We are. I press A, X, and delete. File, import, OBJ, desktop. There is that thing. Forward is Y, Z is up, and here, very important, split by group. If I now import it, all the bodies from Fusion will come into Blender also as bodies. Takes a moment, and there it is. So if I zoom in, there you can see this now. So here I have the foam piece. There's my cup. You see with the two materials. And there, the rest. Pretty cool, no? You see, it's actually not really that complicated. Okay, so everything is brought over and we can actually go ahead and start modeling the environment. So for the environment, all we need is a basic plane. There we have it. And we can see that our headphone is kind of floating in space. And then when I click on an object, you see here, that's the center point. So what I will do is now I press B, select all my headphone elements, right click and say set origin to geometry. That moves then the center point to each object's geometrical center. That's actually a lot nicer. Very good. I can go to a front view, select everything, and for example, move this a little bit down to the ground, like there. Okay. We can, for example, think about from where is the light coming. So maybe from the top, from the side, But before we really work also with lights, we should work on the materials a little bit more. So here's actually the plastic part. I can go to materials, and there we are. And then here we can specify which type of material I would like. You can also see that there's a viewport color and a material color. I can copy and paste this over. Then you see this is all in the viewport colored. And then this would also be the color that would show up in Eevee or Cycles when rendering. This should be a plastic, 0.5, a little bit of roughness, 0.1 for the moment. Okay, almost easy. Then here, this actually should be the leather part. And then this too, and then here too. So, and then here we have the fabric. Where do we go and get actually the materials? So I went to Google, typed in leather seamless texture. And it's really important that you have seamless in it, so you get something that, for example, is nice and tileable. Now this is what the seamless is for. So we can scroll up and down a little bit. And here, this is a really old texture, oldie but goldie, still works. This is a rectangular piece. Well, we can just save this one to the desktop if we want to. We can do a little bit more search. This is too small, also small. So when we do search, tools, size, large. This is maybe a little bit better. Okay. I'm not really that much concerned about the color of what I find here, but more the structure. And this is actually good too. Right click, save image as, and leather. Save. Very good. Okay. If we now go back to Blender, I will select this piece. Shift H, isolate it, so I can see just only this piece. I scroll up here. I have here actually the leftover material and the leather. I am going to recall this one just leather, so it's shorter. I will move this here up a little bit, switch to the shader editor, zoom in, then add texture, image, open, go to the desktop. There's this leather. Actually, I will first use this square one because I would like to show you something. There we are. And let's go to material preview. Yeah, there we see it. Okay, actually might work. So Alt H. Oh, look at that. All the other pieces have that material too. Okay, let's actually go ahead and use this material. Ooh, now we see this is actually not tileable. You see how this is not really, seamless. That's not very good. So this was indeed, it's not ideal, but a tick better. But we still have little issues there. So what I'm trying to point out now is actually, so when you're looking for materials and textures, let's say maybe, how does this look? Save as, save image as, there we are. And then I go back to Blender and I'm swapping this out. Now you see also there, we have a little bit of an issue. So when you have a texture, you need to be aware of the size. How big is this in real life? Is it just a square inch? For example, now this piece, how big is this? Does this cover 10 inches? Does this cover 2 inches? Does this cover 1 inch? Does it also have any reflections on it or shaded parts, which makes it very difficult to tile, for example? Or highlights. Now you see this, these highlights will show up. I don't really want to have these highlights. So the more basic the texture in the photograph or the scan is, the better really. Okay, let's go back to Blender. I will go back and load this one. Okay, now because this seemed to work really well. And I will go back here to this and then drag this over, go to add, and I would like to add a mapping. The mapping has to go in front, add input texture coordinate, because I'm going to use the UV directions to manipulate the position of this image on there. And then when I actually make this smaller, oh, look at that. You see, I'm basically having less of the texture on my material. So I'm hiding kind of like that tiling. Can try to see how much do I get in. 0.5 is not really working. 0.4. And there we can see this. So in this case with that material, looks like 0.3. Okay. Yeah. And you see it's maybe getting a little bit big too, these pores. So we have to pay attention to that too. But for the moment, let's say this is actually okay. So I'm bringing this over. Here now we have the wire mesh in the inside. So I can go to Google again. And here, for example, I have an image. I was just looking for a headphone speaker mesh texture. So there's a lot you can find and search. I just wanted to have a basic fabric like. Save image as, and I call this speaker mesh. Then here you see now this is fabric. I just rename this to mesh, and then I pretty much do the same thing. By the way, look at this. I can copy these 3 nodes, go to here, paste these 3 nodes, click X, open, and simply use logically the correct image. Pop this in. There we are. Yeah. Definitely wrong. So this has to go really, really small. So here we might even have to adjust something. So let me show you something. So in this case, I'm going to delete kind of like what I had there. And then with these cups selected, Shift H, I hide everything else. Then I go into edit mode, and there you can see, and there's that mesh. So check this out. We have to adjust the UV mapping. I slice this interface. I go to UV editor and oosh, it's a little bit crazy. Okay, so all I want is just please select me just the geometry that has this material. So here AA, unhide everything. No, AA, deselect everything. Then here speaker mesh, select. There we are, thank you. And now I can press A and S. But I need to see that speaker mesh. There we are. Yes, there we are. And put it right on the center. And you see now, no more silly seams. Okay, then I can go to here. Pretty much I do the same. AA, speaker mesh, select A, and scale this down. Ideally, when we do this, we want these 2 rings to be pretty much the same. So in the UV editor, see I have both objects edited with tab, AA, L, G, match this, and maybe a little bit of S, scaling it up. Sure. That actually worked really, really well. That's good. We can't really tile this one because you saw this is like a non-tileable fabric. So if we if we tile it, it wouldn't look very good. But it's also okay. We're not really using these textures as is. We're using these more to adjust the materials. You will see that just in a moment. Okay, so with this done now, it might make sense to switch to a better render environment. So I go to cycles. I will shift A in top view, add a light, move this one up and go to rendered view. Oh, that doesn't look actually too bad. There we are. Maybe the environment I set to 0. This plane here as I scale up, so it's nice and big. Yeah, this doesn't actually look too bad. So the plastic is going to be the easiest material to adjust. I'm going to slice my interface here, right click. So I have a smaller area where it only renders. So this should be plastic. We logically have reflectivity and a roughness, but we also have some bump mapping. So let's quickly add a plastic-like looking bump map. And now, out of memory, this will be texture noise, probably 500, and I need to texture coordinates, object, a quick check, and let's say 2000, better, okay. And then Shift A, vector bump. I can pluck this one to there, pluck this one to there. And there you can see how this is structured. Way too strong, 0.1. Ah, look at that. Inside the reflection, now I can start seeing that there is something happening. 0.05. Very good. And then now the roughness, 0.1, I can add a little bit back to it. Very nice. Here now we have this leather material. And leather is pretty much just one color, black, like this. We can make this super reflective on purpose so we can see what we are doing. And then this texture we have, we only use for the bump mapping. Shift A, bump, to there, to there. I mean, this is a super simplified approach. There's more that goes into it. But you see, this actually gets us very close to a quick, oh, this looks like leather, no? Pretty nice. Okay. And then to finish, for example, this look, maybe 0.2, we can do a roughness and B, select these, move this up. This one stays down there. We could also bring this onto the roughness, maybe. Let's see. Yeah. We'll turn normal off for the moment. So basically it, as you can see, adjusts the roughness or the specularity. Kind of like this image makes this not super polished, super rough, but it has a little bit of variation to it. It's kind of like the grooves are more rough, the hills are more polished. It's kind of like the way how the leather would be. They're in. Very good. Now we can see it doesn't really make much of a difference. Actually, it does, no? Okay. That's also a matter of taste. Okay, very good. Specularity, way too high, 0.1. That's 0.2. Bring this down. And this is also not pitch black, more like a really dark gray. Very good. Now, if we take a look at this, then we can see, wow, this is way too reflective. 0.1. Very good. Okay, then we can select here this fabric material. Bring this over, Shift A, color mix RGB. What does this do? Well, we can use this image to mix between a dark and a, yeah, nearly dark color. So this is more like a stencil. No, very good. This actually can do it. Also here, roughness down, we can make this, for example, a little bit reflective if we want to play with this. And then here, G, Shift A, bump. This goes to there, this goes to there. Whoa, what happened? There, and 0.1, 0.01. Now we can see there's 0.05. There's a little bit of a structure, but I mean, this is most times not really anything that's reflective. So this bump and we can keep out, or the specular we can keep off. So check this out, because if I still show the bump mapping or not, maybe not too much. Let's see. Now there you can see now there's a structure going on. Based on the lighting, how much light this object gets, you might see this or not. Okay, back to there. Very good. Oh, there's our very beginner looking headphone. Oh, that's okay. You start somewhere always. And yeah, now we can play around now with the lights. How do we want this more to illuminate? First, a camera. I will add a camera. It's somewhere there. Local, move this camera away. S, scale the camera down. Then I do a little trick. You see the 3D cursor, Shift A, empty and plane camera. And then the empty object, and we will say track to constraint. So you see how the camera moves that empty. That's actually very easy. This way, here can now go into the camera. I can move the empty around, and I can move the camera easily around. This I can not scale, but actually make size-wise a little bit smaller. Very nice. Rendering is expensive, so let's make this a square image. There we are. The camera we can set to 75, so it zooms in a little bit more, and then we can bring this closer. There we are. You see now the empty needs to go higher. With Shift, then you have softer movements. Okay, very nice. Select the ground and see what we can do with the ground. New. We can maybe make this dark. Oh, that actually is not too bad already. The basic reflectivity, like a glass surface, is a little bit crazy. So 0.2, 0.5. Yeah, that's not too bad. You see that it reflects actually this big light object. Now you see that? Okay. If we make this brighter, you will see that the reflection won't work as good because no, on a white surface, you don't see reflections as good because up here, this is dark. This part comes over actually really nicely. So I'm just only setting this up. So it's my default stuff. This is white. So if I need a little bit of brightness, I can bring this up. I will camera light, area light, click and drag out, close this. So now this is actually easier to navigate. I will select this light, Shift D and X, move this over, RX 90, very good. This area light here, turn off. That is also interesting. Now you see how the light comes from the side, very good. Basically from behind the camera. And top view, Shift D, move a light to here, 90 minus. No, you see the light comes from the right. Hide this. Oh, we get some reflections. Interesting. Alt H. Maybe this light I move to here. I'm just trying to play with this because you see now we get nice reflections on the headphone. And in this case, we don't really get anything there. So this position actually is better. What happens if we bring the light to here? And then the front gets kind of dark. So, this was actually maybe not too bad. Show the top one. Well, the top one is really bright. Okay. There we are. Can zoom in a little bit, take a look at everything. What works actually in this rendering is here we have a nice reflection under it. We have a nice reflection of the light. So these reflections is really what you want to play with. So you saw how I was moving everything around. I'm going to make one more collection. I'm showing you a little trick. Bring this to there, turn this off. So I create different collections for different light environments. Going to R minus there, bring this back. R rotate down. I mean, this is also interesting. Now you see the light comes actually from behind. It's a little bit more mysterious. And then it illuminates a lot of this part. Now here, this is a tick too dark. So a new area light, there it is. Move this up, rotate it there, maybe there. There you see where that is. So it's kind of like coming from the side. And this light, I can maybe dial down. Let's see, 5 or 10. Yeah, let's see actually. So basically I have make a new collection. I call this maybe light idea 1, light idea 2, and then these lights M I move into light idea 2. Very good. I would like to do very quick renderings while we're in here. So I set everything up 25%, 100, and let's do a rendering. Yeah, okay, let's go with 50. Okay, so this is environment idea 1, chum chum, and here comes environment idea number 2. Again, I find it very useful not to try to overthink one design, rather actually make various combinations and then, yeah, compare. You can see how this works. Here, the light is nice and soft coming from the left, but the rendering is a little bit dull. Here, this is actually way more aggressive, more dynamic, maybe a little bit too bright. You really start staring actually at this area. And then basically it would be a task of going back and further refining the lights or a camera position too. Now I have right now only here one camera. I can select the camera and the empty. Go to the top view, Shift D, make myself a copy. Then this camera I move to the side. I can press S to scale the camera icon down. Same here. It's only the icon, not the camera. Click this view. Jump into there. Okay. Well, how does this look? Maybe if we... Oh, that's actually interesting. Ta-da! A floating speaker headset. Maybe the ground a tick lower. I mean, it's also not bad, no? Or do we even need a ground? Yeah, maybe not. Look at this. That's interesting. We could actually now have a light below or bring this up till I do not see it inside my rendering. You see now there it's coming, but it will actually show up in the reflection. So you see the lower part is really dark. If I show the ground, it is actually there. The reason why I'm kind of like elaborating on this is I never really know if every shot or product I want to render works out well. So I'm experimenting. I have some ideas what I would like to do, but who knows? I do not have like a do this, and get a great shot cheat list. I always just work with the material and then see how this looks. I really like this idea from the top, from the front. So I will go top view N, select the empty. In this empty along the x-axis is 0 and the camera I want to be 2. So now you see the camera actually is nicely centered, by the way. Very good. And I can even have different cameras and different collections too, just to show you. So let's say I can make a new collection. Well, actually, no, let's not do this with collections. We can keep this as is, because then we can easily select the cameras because they're not really influencing or showing up in rendering, but I can click on them and then always switch between them. There, now you see that. Or if you're on a bigger keyboard, Control-0 on the numpad works really fast and easy. Okay, very good. So now and then to do nice renderings, 100%, we go to samples to 300, and then we hit render and save. And to bring this to an end, I would also like to suggest to think about when we present products, not always to recreate a real photo studio or something. We can just be creative. Sometimes happy accidents create really nice visuals. So for example, what happens when I'm rotating, for example, this plane and just slice it through it? That can look quite funny. Could also be a great content for an animation. Maybe it's just a white plane and then there's my headphone. No? Just as an example. Or I rotate this 90 degrees, so we have this vertical. And while, for example, now this backdrop is further back, well, how would this look if maybe in the back I'm making a head actually stick through? So the same model we used to design the headphone over, I'm just going to import. There's the head. I might have to bring this further down, bring this back. Very good. Might have to go to the front view. Okay, maybe bring this a little bit further up. Bring everything maybe a little bit further back. There. This one too. No, maybe this is actually too small. But I think you start understanding or getting an idea of kind of like what I am trying to talk about. And while maybe this, no, for example, doesn't really work out well. Okay, well, what about we actually change everything maybe in a way that, so I have all my headphone elements. I'm going to select them all at the same time. There, very good. Not the head, very nice. I'm going to side view R and rotate it. Kind of like this. Oh, I mean, there we are. That's already kind of like a funny accident. Now the way how this looks, I was more thinking because the headphone doesn't, in this case, physically really fit onto the head. What about we move the head to somewhere else and start kind of like looking into it, or wave it somewhere else, or just make it peek through the ground. I mean, I'm I'm just goofing around right now. But I found very often that kind of like these funny, yeah, I want to say jokes can make product presentations look a little bit more professional, engaging. Very often I find that the products are too sterile, too like on a packaging, kind of like the fun is out of it. And kind of like this, it's a little bit humorous actually with, yeah, kind of like this hat coming through the white surface, looking at the headphones. So there's clearly something going on. So it might actually be more, how could I say it, thought provoking for the viewer to take a look at this work. We can also bring him further away, kind of like hide him. Like, oh, there's somebody in the back, so can see this. That is definitely not good. Too far away, but yeah, kind of, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny actually. Anyway, just as a little tip, when you feel your renderings are too boring, mess them up, make accidents, and see if something turns out that could actually be quite cool. Okay, that's it. Bye bye.